So, for example, a couple of years, maybe a couple decades, a long time ago, I had this relationship with this guy. He's a non-believer, and I was trying to, at some point, introduce him to Jesus and the kingdom, and hoping that he would submit to that. And so, in the course of this relationship, at one point, religion popped up, and the topic of religion. And so I shared with him why I believe in Jesus and what he's meant to me. And his response to me was, he said, well, I really don't think God gives a hoot what you believe. As long as you're a good moral person and you accept others and you try to help others, that's what God really is into. And then he said, you know, if you can just get through all the doctrine BS in different religions, at their core, they all teach the same thing, and that is do unto others as you want them to do unto yourself. Now, there's not a religion out there that would agree with that. I mean, what would you think if someone said, oh, the core of Christianity, which is just what he said, the core of Christianity is to treat people nicely. Well, that's not quite the core of Christianity. The guy didn't know a thing about religion, but I didn't want to point that out because I'm trying to win him into the kingdom, so I shut up. But he perfectly expresses the generic God. This is the generic God in a nutshell. It's the let's all get along sort of God, the let's all get along religion. And see, in a pluralistic environment where we're always bumping up against and even having relationships with people of different faiths, and there's so many confusing voices out there, this is sort of the easiest thing to believe. It's sort of the lowest common denominator. Let's just all agree on this. And it's the safest thing to believe, because if everyone accepts this, then people won't be blowing each other up. And so this generic God is about being tolerant, being nice, being fair, and he wants you to be happy, and he wants you to be fulfilled. And people don't really develop a deep relationship, not usually, a deep relationship with this God. And there's nothing really required of us individually. We still are Lord of our own life and call our own shots. But this God is there to help us. Most people think in times of need, you know, you call out when you're in trouble, and because he's a nice God, he'll be there to help you, and he wants you to be fulfilled and will help you do that. But it's sort of a grandfather from a distance. It's not a personal, intimate sort of relationship. Okay, so that's in a nutshell the generic God, and it's widespread. And there's Christian versions of it, and Jewish versions of it, and Islamic versions of it. It's just across the board. A general, foggy, grandpish, nice deity. And if you're good, you go to heaven. And if you're not, oh, we don't talk about that much because it's not nice. And being nice is what this thing's all about. So what should we make of this generic God? Here's the thing. As I mentioned last week, and I repeat with some frequency, the single most important question to ask with regard to any possible thing you might consider believing is, what is the picture of God that it presupposes? Because the definitive revelation of God, and we teach this all the time around here, the definitive, decisive, unsurpassable revelation of who God is down to his very essence is Jesus Christ dying on the cross. And so the question is how does this generic view of God line up with the God who's revealed on the cross? Now, in some respects, there's some overlap here. To a certain degree, it does conform to the God who's revealed on the cross. I think it conforms much more than the power vision of God conforms. You know, Jesus did teach, treat others the way you'd want to be treated. He did tell us not to be about imposing our will over others, but to be serving others. He told us not just to tolerate people who are different from us, but to love them and to serve them and to bless them. He did say that if we follow him, we'll find joy and happiness, though I think what he meant by joy and happiness is quite different than what most people mean. But there's some overlap there between the generic God and the God revealed on the cross, and we need to affirm that. And God wants us to be on the side of social justice and fairness for people. On the other hand, having said that, there is, I think, a million light years that separate these two beliefs. And the main reason is because the God who's revealed in Jesus Christ is anything but a God who's made in our own image. In fact, the God who's revealed in Jesus is the opposite of the God, of any form of God who's made in our own image.